Hey friends, so in this video we're going to talk about Arola's section on community and the individual. So where we begin is the relationship between the community and the individual, right? So on the one hand, individuals make up communities, right? I mean, you wouldn't have your neighborhood without the people in your neighborhood. I'm fighting very hard the urge to start singing a Sesame Street song here. Urge is past. Now, ordinarily, in light of that insight, folks think of individuals as primary in some way and communities as secondary, right? So the idea is that communities wouldn't exist without the individuals in those communities existing, right? So in that sense, the existence of the community is secondary to the existence of the individual. Now, what I think Arola really wants us to take away from this is that we shouldn't think about the relationship between individuals and communities in terms of either primary or secondary, right? He warns us against thinking about community as primary and individuals as secondary. I think what he wants us to, I think the best way to read this is to say that communities and individuals are mutually determining, right? That is to say that individuals affect their communities and communities shape their individuals. So there's an example of this, I think. Hold on to your seatbelts, friends. There's a neat example of this in the physics of cooling objects, right? So if the mathematics behind an object cooling, math majors and engineers, I'll leave the details to you, is that an object will start rapidly cooling at first, right? It'll go like, but then it'll start cooling more slowly over time, right? One of the factors in how rapidly an object cools is the ambient air temperature, right? So here's the thing. The ambient air temperature affects the temperature of the cooling object, but changes to the cooling object affect the ambient air temperature, right? So as the object cools off, right, the heat dissipates into the ambient air, but then that heats up the ambient air, which means that the object isn't going to cool as quickly. So what we have there is we have a mutually determining, or sometimes described as a causally coupled system. The temperature of the object and the temperature of the air determine one another. And we can't understand the behavior of one without understanding the behavior of the other. And the same thing goes for us and our communities. We can't understand the behavior of individuals without understanding the behavior of communities. And we can't understand the behavior of communities without understanding the behavior of individuals. So, that being said, we still want to know about individuals, well, and about communities. Right? So, if we want to understand what an individual is, right, beyond this causal coupling of the individual with their community, we would say that an individual is best understood through relations, right, in terms of its causal nexus. So all of the things that it is causally related to and everything that is causally related to it, right? So think for a moment about tomato plants growing in a garden. I've been obsessing about my tomato plants, so I'm going to go run with this. So a tomato plant, what does it do? Well, it has flowers on it, right? So the pollen serves as food for bees. And the roots help keep the soil stable, right? And the bees, in turn, when they pollinate, right, they pollinate the flowers, and those flowers eventually turn into tomatoes, right? So our tomato plant here plays a number of important causal roles, right? It holds the soil stable, right? It also serves as food for bees, and ultimately it serves as food for this guy. So if we want to understand what a tomato plant is, we have to understand it in terms of its causal nexus, right? In terms of all of its causal relationships to one another. And this doesn't just go for plants, it goes for everything in the world, including us. So what we have to do then is we have to think about all the ways in which we causally interact with each other and with the world around us. Now here's the thing. Because the world is a dynamic place, these causal relationships and the causal nexes in which we find ourselves, these things are constantly changing, right? So what that means is that we have to be open to how the world manifests itself to us. Right? that we can't have necessary and sufficient conditions for an object to be an object of a certain kind, nor can we have the kind of clear and distinct knowledge of objects that Descartes thinks, well, Descartes wants us to have, right? And we can't have that because everything is caught up in the activity of everything else, and things are constantly changing at the same time. So we need to be wary and on the lookout for novel ways in which the world manifests itself to us. And if you want to take this a step further, ways in which we manifest to others.